All right, how's it going, everybody? All right, I thought, kind of looking back on it all week, I don't know if you heard it from me or from the guys, we really talked defense about running our race. And I thought that was an important message for us after coming off last week. And we even kind of used Usain Bolt. He wasn't looking over at lane 4 to Justin Gatlin or Asafa Powell. It was just worried about how we go get it on. And we didn't look in lane 4. And I thought we needed that fight to be close. We really did. And we haven't had that where we had to go into the deep waters in the last minute or 2 minutes of the game, and in this season, or here going into our 6th game. So I thought coming off our hardest loss, we weren't looking for anything to be easy, and it wasn't. And I thought that it was exactly what we needed. And so to me, the 2 minute at the end of the game, man, that's the stuff. And that's the best, most exciting part of coaching it and playing it, where it's all on there. And we needed that. We needed to be in those deep waters and in the fight where all your chips are in. So plenty of errors and corrections that we've got to get right for us to play at our best, including some of the the pre-snap fouls that we had. But I'm certain that we'll do that. But more than anything, the running, the hitting, the speed, that's what I was looking for us to run our race in that way. And so that was pretty cool to see that. So all that said, let's get it rocking.
Hey Dan, David Moore, Dallas Morning News. You were talking about that final 2 minutes, and statistically, that was your only sack of the game, but you had constant pressure throughout the game. Can you talk about the pressure you applied throughout the game? And
Sure.
Is it rare to have as much as you had without it manifesting itself on the stat sheet?
Yeah, I think that happens some, and I think the lesson there goes to that you have to keep hitting your games, hitting your tracks, hitting your stuff. And I saw a excellent receiver last night prior to the game, and it made me think of that this morning when I was thinking about just keep doing it over and over. It was Larry Fitzgerald, and that you run your route, and you run it at full speed, and you run it at the right depth, and you run it, and that doesn't mean the ball always goes to your space, but you have to do that all the time, whether the sacks come and he scrambles and he holds on to it, or he scrambles to get rid of it. So the pressure is the key. That's the number one thing. But the sacks are good because then it gets you chances if you can force a fumble or knock a ball off of somebody, or obviously the yards that go with it. So I don't want to downplay those. But I do know that there's some quarterback, I am not taking this one. I'm going to get rid of it and go. And when that happens, generally the completions go down and you can go that. So I was pleased with that, but that really made me think of that. He's was such a remarkable player, but whether he had 1 catch or 10 catches, man, the route, the speed, the execution was there. And I think that kind of made me think of that a little bit this morning. Like the rush was strong. We felt it, although we didn't get the numbers from a sack standpoint. I did feel like we were able to affect the passer.
And Mike, a little bit of that too, not having a sack all game and then getting it in that moment. It's just a tribute to doing what you need to do time in, time out.
Time in and time out, over and over. And then when that moment comes and you see the crease or you have the space to go hit it, then you can go nail it. And so I think that was a good example of that, because it'd be nice if you're able to go let it rip and go, but sometimes it just doesn't go that way. And he gets a lot of attention. So when the space is there and it lines up and you go make your play, I thought that was a really big part of it.
A couple of things. The pre-snap penalties, offsides. I mean, Chucky, what's going on? Why are they lining up offsides?
Yeah, honestly, we just have to get our discipline better in that space, because aligning is even worse than jumping. Right. Because like literally it's where it is, and that's not moving. And so we're always trying to find that edge and push it, but never to the space where that one. And I recognize there's going to be some fouls that happen when they're combative or ones to go, but the alignment, man, no way. And that part we just have to get out of our game and take the extra step to make sure you're aligning on the ball and not the man. I think that, but that's generally what happens. You see the tackle and he's getting into his set, you start moving in to get into your set without checking the ball, and all of a sudden your helmet's 2 inches off because you're aligning on the man and not on the ball. And so we've really got to get that part right.
You were called for 12 minutes on the field one time. You had to call the timeout. You had 12 minutes. What was going on there? Why was there?
Just substitution, issues of going in and going out. And so that's one that I can correct. So I'll be sure to get that fixed. But that's the first time that's happened for us this year. And we'll have to organize some stuff better into that spot. But I'm way more concerned about the aligned offsides and our 12 minute. I'm certain we'll get that part handled.
Dan Todd Archer with ESPN. Crowd noise for defense. How does that impact you guys?
Like here at home?
well, I guess maybe even last night on the
Yeah,
road.
and that was, when that happens, it's good that you practice it all the times, and there's hand signals and certain things that you can go, because obviously, like, cadence is different, when you're working off a silent count. So, is the center going on one bob or two bobs or a hand of a guard, and how do those work in? So, it's definitely something that we work at a lot, and all the games that are at home, we have the crowd noise that you guys know for, this parts and this periods of practice. And so it's a real advantage, for us to know that, it's loud and it's ripping, because although it could be challenging for our communication, it's way harder, for the offense. So any chance that we get to really bring it and, have our fans behind us, man, it's a huge help.
John Michaud, The Athletic, when you said at the beginning about the running your own race,
Yep.
how much did you guys facing a Kellen Moore offense, you knowing them and knowing you guys obviously, how much does that factor in with that?
Yeah, I was really stringent upon that, even for myself, to have discipline, to not get into the, well, he knows that I know that he knows we do that. And I tried like hell to make sure I didn't do that, to go back and look at certain things and certain looks that could happen. So as opposed to they do this and being more reactive, I wanted to be, more attacking and going. So that was a bit of why I said, hey, running our race and not looking over into lane 4 at Kellen in that lane and seeing what was there, where we could just focus our eyes on what we had to get done. So it was part of the message was for the guys, but part of the message was probably for me too, to make sure that come hell or high water, like we're going to play like we play, and we're going to prepare our ass off for the looks and the things they do. But at the end of it, it was going to be down for us to go, and that's why I liked, at the end, I felt our running, I felt the hitting, I felt the speed. I liked what I saw in the run game. I'd like to clean up some of these errors as the coach in me, to be honest with you, because I thought those are the ones in those moments, they get more expensive. When you make an error in a time where, here it is, the game's on the line, the moment's right there. And so when you have those errors in those spots, you're not going to be as good as you can be if we don't get those fixed, and I'm certain that we will. But yeah, that's where it came from for me, for not just for the players, but for myself too, to make sure, don't look around. Let's make sure our eyes are focused right on how we want to get it on.
Joe Hoyt, Lone Star Live. DeMarcus Lawrence is having his highest graded PFF season of his career in year 10. For a guy at this juncture of his career, is there a common trait that kind of enables this kind of consistent production, or is there something unique that you've seen from DeMarcus?
Yeah, it's a good question. He's always had that warrior spirit about him, where he can make plays and do things. I think what I've seen from him, probably as much now, he's done it from different positions. It's been inside, it's been outside, it's on the right side and the left. And that took a lot of work for a guy who had primarily played one side in one position. So to see that type of flexibility for him to move around, because it does create some matchups for us that we like. So when I see him doing those things from different spots, that makes me happy, because I know that's a lot of work that went into that. And I'd say that alone might be, as much as anything, his ability to move around more is probably helping him, as his career's advanced.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. How do you keep, you up in the box obviously, how do you keep Micah engaged in terms of not getting frustrated, because he does get a lot of attention out there?
Yeah, and that's the hardest part, isn't it? To say where you're at, they're going to come track and find, and so sometimes that's where being off the ball, can help too. And you guys probably saw that some in the game where he wasn't, just at end in the game, and so having the ability to move and do that. But even going back to that last one, when your moment's there and you got your chance to go get it, you got to go get it. And so I thought that was a pretty cool sign for him at the end, because it can get frustrating, and you're hoping that, hey, I might get chipped or extra attention to me, and it opened up, a potential door for somebody else that those guys take advantage. But it's still, you still want to get going. So I think the ability for guys like he and DeMarcus to move and be in different spots can make it more challenging for the offense to find him.
What's your assessment of Bell last night?
You know what? I'm glad that you guys brought up Bell, because I was definitely going to. And, man, I was pleased with him. I felt the speed. I felt him guard guys, the running back coming out of the backfield, the contact, the hitting. I saw this happening. I was pleased with Damone, too, to see with Leighton, being injured in the last game. Damone also changed positions, this week, for Bell really played where Damone had been playing in the first 5 games. So to see those two really step into that space and put the work in, and knowing that they wanted to be counted upon. And I think it's one of the best feelings there is for a player, when you step up, when you know you're being counted on and you deliver, because it just not only gives yourself confidence, but your teammates around you to say, hey, this guy, he's got it, and we can count on him, he can be trusted. And I certainly thought he would play well because he had prepared and done well. And I think over the last, I guess it's been about maybe close to 6, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, since we made the move for him to backer. And I just keep seeing this trajectory going up, and I don't see that slowing down.
Skyler Dixon with BAP. Back on Micah, he was just about to have his 3rd straight game without a sack, which I think it's only happened once in your all's time together. That kind of a game-defining play, what does that say? Does it like exhibit whatever and sort of the making of a great player?
Yeah, I really thought of him. Like, that's when I was thinking of like Larry Fitzgerald. Like there was games when he had one catch, but it was route after route and the speed to go, and that made me think of Mike on that one to say there's going to be days where it's hard and they're not allowing you to do what you like to do and be an aggressive. Or I'm sure as a receiver they felt that way. He's getting doubled, he's getting clouded on plays, but when there's the moment, when there's the break, when there's the chance that you go and deliver, that's really making somebody pay. And so, we're going to find our ways to do that.
Clarence.
Getting back to Bell for a minute, his size was never a detriment for being the full-time linebacker. You just talk about what you saw from him coming out of FAMU.
Yeah, I didn't think so. And I really coming, from Tallahassee, I was thinking that he was going to go to linebacker first. And that was kind of my vision and how I had thought it. But once we got here and we saw him run and we saw him do the things, I said, you know what, let's leave him there and let's put him at the safety. And then we saw him play man-to-man. We saw him do that. And so going into it, I felt like he could get a little bigger. He already he had been bigger before and into the 220s and maybe even a little bit heavier than that at times. So it kind of got up and down. But I never saw him give way or give ground based on his weights. I thought, because he has long arms, he can get guys extended. He's got good instincts. So I just thought, I wasn't concerned on that.
Because he lost weight coming in this year from last year, didn't he?
A little bit, not much. And so he's put most of that and a little bit more back on. But yeah, over the summer he was a little leaner. And so when we moved at linebacker, it was kind of a conscious effort, not in 1 week or 2 weeks, but over time, I'd like to get some of that weight back on.
David.
When losing Leighton last week and knowing it's going to be a prolonged period here, and then you and your staff go into discussions on how do you compensate. I'm really with Micah, who can argue, you can argue he's his best linebacker, your best pass rush. I mean, can you walk us through those conversations
Sure.
a little bit and how involved they are? Because it's, where do you weigh, let Micah be Micah, makes him special versus, well, but this is where our depth is, maybe it lines up better
Sure.
this way.
And I think, and you guys had probably saw it some where he and Leighton, had moved around some from the end of the line to linebacker. So although he was in the game as a defensive end, he was playing backer and Leighton was down. So we knew that we didn't want to just say, okay, the pass rush for him is not going to be there. We knew that that's not going to work for us because of that special skill that he has. So we thought we'd start that process to say how many plays could he play and what would that look like, and the coverages that he felt comfortable with, because you can't be in 2 meetings all at the same time. So we wanted to make sure these are the ones we're going to feature for the game and this is what we expect. So we expected him to play some backer, and we did it by series kind of in the game and different packages as it went. So that's how we decided, knowing it wasn't a full-time move, and we had a lot of confidence in Clark and Bell. But I thought, behind them we still had to work Bell some more, just in case a shoelace broke, to say, okay, you don't want to be so thin at a spot that you're not prepared for that. So it was kind of twofold to make sure, would he play some linebacker? Yes, for a team that wanted to find him, but also for our own depth.
So some of this process started in camp, where we
Yes.
noticed Leighton down in there, and that this was the idea, if we need to do this someday.
Yes. And so that way I thought by putting him back and Leighton down, I would always continue to train him as a linebacker without having to go into the packages. And so you never know when you're going to need that kind of insurance until it's there. But if you don't have it and all of a sudden you had to switch him back to linebacker in week 6 without having those reps, I think that would have been really challenging for any player.
All right. Oh, Todd.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dak
This
made a
had
lot
better
of-
be about Dolly Parton at halftime at Thanksgiving game. Or I am.
John was gonna ask
Okay,
that.
I've been waiting. Yeah, I was going to be part of how I opened, but I figured somebody would ask for sure.
Sorry, it's not a Dolly question, but Dak made some plays with his legs and bought time and made some plays. How demoralizing can that be from a defensive perspective when you've got the guy, he scrambles free, he makes a pass to Paul, or makes
Yeah.
a CD pass? What does that
Yeah,
do to defense?
it's tough because there's kind of different ways I think you have to go about it. There's certain guys that want to get outside the pocket to go create, because there's really like two plays that happen. So some are the scramble, not across the line, but buying time for the, another route to take place and throwing it down the field. So that's one element when you get outside the pocket, but you're staying alive to throw it. And then the second one is, a lot of times it could be a man-to-man, and somebody's back is turned, and that player doesn't see the quarterback or has vision to him. And so those ones can really hurt you, especially like on a third down conversion. You thought you had the right people guarded on the right spot, and all of a sudden, he slips out to go. So for a guy like Dak, who is an athlete and can use it, you saw it on the touchdown run and other ones that he stayed alive. And now the way we coached on defense, there's two plays. The first one when the drop back started, and then the second play begins when the quarterback breaks contain. And now you may be covering somebody for a long time. This could be, from a 2.5 second play, now you're going into, 3.5, 4 seconds, where deep routes, big crossing ones, and so those are the challenging parts for it. Sometimes you'll want to cage somebody to try to keep them in the pocket if they're, exceptional at that part. And then other times, just the sheer running of somebody inside the pocket and finding a lane, those are difficult too, because you want a quarterback to be able to run laterally, not downhill. And if you can run laterally, chances are the rest of your speed on defense can get them. But when you're going right down Main Street and he split it, that's when usually some big plays can happen.
What about Dolly?
I'm just really fired up, just like everybody else, and I won't get to see it, but I'm certain that we'll tape it and get a chance to watch it afterwards. So
you're versatile. I thought you were a hip hop guy. You're a Dolly guy too.
always. All right, you guys have a good one.
Thank you, guys.